Good afternoon, buenas tardes con todos, bienvenidos, bienvenidos, bienvenidos. Sean todos a nuestro BAM, Business Advocacy and Mentoring, BAM on Zoom and at noon. Y hoy es viernes, mayo 19. We come to you once a month and we bring you topics that are interesting, that are informative, and that just really keeps us going as business owners. Things that we need to keep in mind, things that we need to know, things that maybe we think we already know, but it's good to have a quick refresher, and it's good to talk about business with our community and to bring questions and to have a safe space where you can do it. If you're watching this on Facebook, just know that you can join us on Zoom. If you go to our website, the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce website, you go to our calendar of events, and I can actually share them and I can show you where, if my technology decides to work with me and allow me to share my page here real quick. But if you go to our website, to the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce website, and look at our calendar of events, you would have found on May 19, BAM Business Advocacy Mentorship. You just click there and that brings you to everything you need. You can register right there. After you've registered, you get added to your calendar right here. So you can, that's the best way for you to connect with us, Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Just ask Google, hey, Google, help me find Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Google will bring you to us. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can connect with us on social media. We are here for you and we want you to connect with us. That's what the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is here for. And today, el día de hoy, miércoles 19 de mayo, bueno, les estaba enseñando la página web de nuestro chamber donde pueden comunicarse con nosotros, pero hoy vamos a hablar acerca de las estructuras de negocio. We're speaking about business structures, and we have a panel, un panel de lujo, es lo que tenemos en este día. Hoy vamos a hablar de Business Structures LLC versus Inc. is the topic for today. Y tenemos a 4 personas. We have 4 speakers who are going to share their knowledge with us. We have attorney, abogado Daniel Trujillo de Offutt Kerman. Tenemos realtor Carmen Zúñiga. Tenemos también un advisor de Commercial Insurance, Sebastián Gómez. Y tenemos a Gigi Guzmán, que también se va a unir a nuestra presentación, y ella nos va a hablar también acerca de negocios. But before we get going with our conversation, I just want to remind everyone that the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce does not endorse any businesses. However, we support all Latino businesses in Maryland. So if you're an expert in your industry and you want to have a conversation, there's a topic that you feel that the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce should cover, connect with us. Send us an email. We can have a conversation. Maybe you can be the next guest here in our BAM at Zoom at noon. And with that, I would like to ask our panelists. I know I gave you their names, and it was kind of like, who are they? Where are they? Well, now you can see everybody who's here on our Zoom, but we're going to give them each an opportunity to talk briefly about their business. And we're going to start with the topic, right? I also want you guys to talk about the type of structure that your business is currently operates under. So based on who I see on here on my screen, we're going to start with Daniel Trujillo. So Daniel, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Daniel Trujillo Espinal. I am an attorney at Offutt Kerman in their labor and employment group. So I deal primarily with everything having to do with small businesses and how they are interacting with their employees, everything from onboarding them, classifying them, all the way through all the goods and the bads that can happen with businesses that have employees. Do we want to go ahead and have an introduction for everybody, or get right in on the topics?
We're going to let everybody introduce themselves, but what kind of business, so what structure is your business operating under right now? Are you an LLC? Are you?
So as a law firm, we operate as a partnership corporation. So it's going to be a little bit different than anything that that we're going to talk about here. As lawyers, we kind of set up the law to make ourselves a little bit special. So we have our own little partnership structure.
I love that. So lawyers are special. You guys all heard it here first, in case you didn't know that already. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate
And
that.
I think Daniel hasn't mentioned he's also part of our board, the chamber board. It's important to know we have an attorney on our side.
Yes, we need a good team. We need a good team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Carmen Zúñiga is our next guest. Carmen, bienvenida. Please tell us a little bit of your business and the type of structure that your business works under.
Okay, I am a realtor for 17 years. I started in Florida. And I moved to Maryland like 11 years ago. Time flies. And I was like any realtor really, that like maybe like 80% of realtor, we are 1099 independent. But when COVID hit, there were some benefits to companies. And I established my company in 2020 as an LLC, Carmen Zúñiga Real Estate LLC. And I have more benefits now to put more expenses because yeah, it's convenient to put more expenses on my business now, on my structure. Yeah.
I like that you use the word benefits because usually, you know, we think if I establish a business, then I'm going to have more responsibilities. But Carmen just told us benefits. So we're going to dive into that in a minute. We're going to let Sebastián Gomez present himself next. But thank you, Carmen.
Good afternoon, everybody. And to those viewing in different platforms, my name is Sebastian. I am a commercial insurance broker with Diversified Insurance. We are currently operating under Incorporated. My goal in my business projection is to help business owners, whether there's SMEs, pretty much starting out from as a new venture, and all the way to those corporations that have upwards of 2,000 to 2,500 employees. Insurance is, I think we go hand in hand with what Danielle does. And what we do is we go in and get to know the business, build a relationship, and make sure that their operations are fully protected.
Thank you, Sebastian. I said Sebastián, I'm still a Latina. And Gigi Guzman, one of the people that I love working with here in the chamber. I would love for you to just introduce yourself here real quick, Gigi.
Yes, hi. My name is Gigi Guzman. I'm one of those serial entrepreneurs. Right now, and I mind you, I said right now, because that can change at any moment. I'm an interpreter, translator. I have my own LLC as well. I used to have an Inc., and I can talk about that later. I'm one of the originals way back in the Chamber of Commerce 36 years ago or something. So I serve on the board. I am the chair of the Business Advocacy and Mentorship program, the one that you're in right now. And I'm also I also serve as vice chair. So I do have my hands full. That's it.
I love that, serial entrepreneur. I love that Gigi's already expanded.
Means that, you know, you get tired of one and start another, you know, that kind of a thing, you know.
But I love that, you know, that's opening up opportunities, porque a veces decimos, no, yo me tengo que enfocar en una sola cosa y tenemos muchas pasiones, ¿verdad? Y somos buenos para muchas cosas, entonces.
Es que algunas personas hacen muy bien en una sola línea de tránsito, ¿ok? Especialmente si alguien tiene una preparación, you know, for a certain thing, you know. So it's not a bad deal, you know. I always tell young kids, start with anything you want, because life will take you places that you never even thought of. And I started out as an artist, then I got into information technology. I was in it for a long time. Then I was developing language skills and this and that. Well, here you go. Many years later, I had a language institute, and, you know, so also as you move along, you change the business structure that you are under. You know, sometimes, you know, that's the idea. It's not typical, correct, right?
Yeah.
no es difícil hacerlo y si hay tiempo yo les puedo mostrar un poco porque does everybody speak Spanish here? Crystal, you do too? Everybody understands? I didn't mean to
Oh, we're in Spanglish. We're in
we're
Spanish.
in Spanglish, yes,
Don't
you know,
worry.
that's exactly right.
If
We're
you
in
speak
Spanglish.
Spanish, smile.
Spanish, yes, smile, yep. Anyway, I will let Chris move forward on whatever she's doing.
Thank you, Gigi. And the reason I was bringing that is esa idea que tú nos diste, esa idea de oportunidad, de transición, de que a veces empezamos en un camino y dentro de ese camino nos encontramos otra opción. Y yo tengo siempre a la juventud en mente. A mí me encanta hablarles a los jóvenes porque yo siento que los jóvenes latinos necesitan ejemplos y necesitan ver que podemos empezar en un negocio, podemos empezar un propio negocio también, ¿verdad? Que podemos ser doctores, podemos ser ingenieros, podemos ser realtors, podemos ser muchísimas cosas, todo lo que querramos, pero también podemos ser varias cosas a la vez. Entonces, queremos inspirar a nuestra juventud y también a los que somos jóvenes de corazón, ¿verdad? Los que somos sabios y experimentados, como hemos dicho por ahí antes de empezar el show, que
Sabios
también
experimentados.
podemos cambiar de
Sabios con
camino.
experiencia.
Podemos cambiar nuestro camino, and that's okay. We can reinvent ourselves constantly.
Right.
And that's what business allows you to do. And so, Carmen, quiero empezar contigo porque tú hablaste de algo, ¿verdad? Tú dijiste, I was doing my business as an individual, but I was operating as a business, but I was doing it as an individual. And when I switched and I actually established myself as a business, that created opportunities. That actually gave me opportunities even to save, right? And to do things differently and to get more money into my pockets, which nosotros los latinos creo que a veces venimos de nuestros países con ideas de que para ahorrarme más dinero no me voy a convertir en un negocio, sino que al contrario lo voy a hacer como quien dice bajo la mesa, ¿verdad? Y yo quisiera que empecemos por ahí, cambiando un poco esa idea y ayudándonos a entender por qué es importante que hagamos negocio como compañía. Why is it important for us, if we're going to do business, to really do it right, to really set a company and not do it as an individual? What protections? ¿Cuáles son esas protecciones, benefits, beneficios de hacer negocio como compañía y no como individuo?
Sí, gracias. Bueno, básicamente crecí, uno va creciendo acá, uno mal hecho, ¿no? El latino va creciendo, va avanzando, como dice Gigi, vamos caminando. Y estaba en el treadmill de vender casas y vender y vender y vender y vender. Pero uno no analiza el negocio hasta que comienzas a crecer y cuando comienzas a vender sobre six figures, sobre los $100,000, tú dices, well, now I have to put all my expenses. ¿Por qué? Porque el gobierno se lleva su 30%. O sea, tú tienes que saber que tu aliado y tu partner es el gobierno, ¿no? Entonces, de todo lo que tú te ingresas, tienes que pagarle. Entonces, ay, ¿qué hacemos? ¿Qué hacemos? Entonces ya hablé con unos contadores y les dije, oye, ¿tú crees que a mí me convenga mudarme a hacer una LLC? Y rápidamente me vio y me dice, te vas a ahorrar por lo menos unos $7,000, $8,000. Ops, ya. Ya, definitivamente. Y aparte, que como vinieron muchos beneficios en el 2020 de las compañías que cerraron y todo, y me dijeron, esto puede ser una oportunidad que en el futuro vuelva a pasar esto, y yo no estoy preparada para recibir los beneficios que mi esposo recibió, porque él también es independiente, él es artista y tiene una compañía de construcción, o sea que tiene dos LLC, la de arte y la de construcción. Entonces yo dije, bueno, yo también me abriré, pues, ¿no? Entonces ahora yo me pago a mí misma un W2. Entonces, entre comillas, es un poco más caro, pero al final, cuando ves los números, al final puedes deducir mucho más cosas, ¿no? Como una compañía se puede deducir más el auto, porque está a nombre de la compañía, la limpieza de la oficina, gasolina totalmente, o el carro está a nombre de la compañía. Entonces eso más bien el contador que nos explique bien, porque yo no soy contadora, yo soy real. Esta es mi realidad. Y todo lo que pueda ponerle, y lo más interesante es que yo estoy en una compañía que está en 50 estados y en 25 países. Y es increíble, porque si yo voy a un estado y me contacto con un realtor y le digo, ¿no quieres venir a mi oficina a trabajar conmigo? Ya es un gasto de la compañía. Y yo digo, uff, qué rico. O sea, a donde yo vaya, contacto un realtor, y ya tengo el beneficio del gasto, ¿no? O me voy a hacer una clase, la vez pasada me fui a Denver, Colorado, y es parte de mi capacitación que lo pongo dentro del gasto. Entonces, yo he decidido que mi vida la vivo hoy y me capacito todo lo que pueda hoy y gasto todo lo que pueda hoy. ¿Por qué? Porque ¿para qué le voy a dejar mi 30% al gobierno? Entonces, todo me lo gasto hoy.
En convertirte en una mejor empresaria, y eso me encanta. Daniel, I would love to hear your viewpoint as well on, we heard it from the practical point of view and from that personal experience, right? That journey of, oh, I didn't realize that actually setting up a business would benefit me, right? Pensaba que de pronto tener mi negocio me iba a ser más caro y me doy cuenta que al contrario, que es algo bueno para mí, que me da protecciones. So, cuéntanos un poquito de parte del aspecto legal, from the legal side, right? From the legal side, let's take the person to the side and just strictly look at it from that business legal side. Why is it important for us to set up a company when we're trying to do business in this country?
I wouldn't be a lawyer if I didn't give you a start of a sentence with an asterisk and say I can only speak so much on this topic, because I primarily practice labor and employment. That said, from a business standpoint, typically when you're looking at LLC, PC, Inc., how you're setting up the structure of the business, there are those tax implications that we've discussed, but it's also about the liability protection. There's a reason why these are LLCs are limited liability companies. This is the manner in which, if there is some sort of issue with some sort of lawsuit that comes towards you, how can the structure of the business ensure that the business is the one that is going to be taking the brunt out of it, rather than, for example, in a partnership corporation, the actual partners will be potentially individually liable as well as liable within the context of the operation of the business. So that's why you want to really tailor down what the right kind of organization is for your particular business, not just for the business itself, but also for your personal interests, because you don't want something that the company has done that has absolutely nothing to do with you individually to wind up with you having to go out of your pocket to pay for some legal exposure.
Thank you for letting us know that it's a protection for both the individual and the business, right? The business needs to be protected, but the individual needs to be protected as well. So let's dive, and you alluded already to this. There's different types of structures, right? Of business structures. I'm going to open it up to everyone on our floor, each one of our panelists, to talk about that, right? The different types of business structures, the differences between the one or the other, the legal protections, the tax consequences. So I don't know if Danielle, you're the best one to get us open with this, or Sebastian.
Well, I can tell you that I did the research with all the realtors in my industry and say, what you do, what you recommend me to do. And everybody told me sole proprietorship with LLC. I'm an LLC. This what for my interview, 100 of realtors, and I said, okay, if everybody's doing this, I do the same. Now let's listen, Danielle.
Carmen, but Carmen, why, as a realtor, as a salesperson, individual salesperson, why was that the recommendation? What are those protections? What are those, what does it give you?
Limited liability. Basically, really, I am not the expert, but really, I never invent a wheel. Whatever the most people and the more intelligent people in the business are doing, really, I copy paste. Whatever they are doing, that's my model. If they are doing, I think they already thought a lot. Yeah, I check people from Texas, in Florida, in California, and I ask, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then from everybody, I do my research and said, okay, this is what I'm gonna do.
And that's good advice. Talk to those. If you're gonna start selling flowers, if you're gonna start construction, talk to those who are in business, who are already successful and well established, and ask those questions, right? That mentoring piece. It's
Mentor,
important.
that's the point, mentoring, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
important to go and talk to those who are already doing it right, not just one, but many, and see what they've worked, right? What path they've already walked, so that maybe we can go bounce that same path. Daniel or Sebastian, if you guys can help us, look at those different business structures, or Gigi, maybe you can help us with that.
Yes, absolutely. I can certainly help. I've been in all of those same situations. I started out as an employee, as a W-2, and with a very large corporation. And there we got a paycheck I think it was every week or every 2 weeks or something. And they deducted the Social Security, the state taxes, the federal taxes, MUTA, meaning this is federal unemployment fees, and the state unemployment fees, and then Social Security. As you know, half of it gets paid by the corporation as a W-2. All of those withholdings come up with to a 15%. And then what happens is that the employee pays 7.5 and the company pays 7.5. And that's one of the perks of being an employee. Also, you get many times, you should get vacation, 2 weeks paid vacation at least. And most companies also give you health insurance. Sometimes it's paid for, sometimes it's partially paid for. So those are some, but not all of the perks of being an employee. Now, if you then transition to starting your own company, at that time, I was in information technology. I was a programmer and became a project leader and all of that. And I decided that I wanted to start my own company. And hello, everybody, put yourselves in mute, please. And so what that did when I started as an Inc. The LLC was not very popular at that time, so I started as an Inc. and I became a S Corp. It was an S Corp. An S Corp allows you to have pretty much all of the advantages of being a C Corp. I'll explain that in a minute, and maybe Danielle can help me a little bit on this better. And with an S Corp, I was able to put that pretty much into my own tax filings, sort of like an LLC, okay? And that was very advantageous in many ways because if the company lost money, I was able to deduct that money. And if the company made money, I was able to pay the taxes right there in one single filing. And I still had a whole lot of protections, the legal protections that Danielle was talking about. Then after that, I had companies under there, but I didn't separate them as companies. I made them divisions. So I still kept the information technology, but I started a language institute and I did a DBA, doing business as. So what that allowed me to do was to have one single filing, one EIN, employee ident. No, I'm sorry, EIN. What was it? Help me out. What does it mean?
Employer identification number.
The what?
Employer identification number.
Yeah, employer. That's what. Employer identification number with the federal IRS, as well as have my own Maryland business number that I could do taxes with. Okay, so I didn't have a whole lot of companies underneath. Now the difference is that anything that happened with the DBA, which in this day was Global Tech Bilingual Institute, was one of the DBAs, then it would affect the information technology part. Okay, but I was able to handle both of them. If you want total separation, you have to have 2 different EINs and 2 different registrations. Then when I sold all that, or at least part of it, for the language interpretation, I started an LLC. And each one of these things they're all similar, but not exactly. With the inks, you usually have more freedom to have employees and contractors. The LLC usually is for a single owner or 2 or 3 owners, almost like a partnership kind of thing. Usually they're not very large as far as owners are concerned, normally. Not that you cannot do it, I'm sure that you can. But many times also you have an Inc. and it has LLCs underneath. So it's partially owned. Now, again, I'm also not an expert. I am the practical user that has experienced all of these things, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. You know? That's the way it is.
Thank you, Dee, for sharing your experience and for helping us, see that there's many ways, and it is important to
It
understand.
is. There's
different
many
options.
ways, but you really have to get a handle on the structure that you're in at that moment and how all of these things relate. Okay, because they all do. They're all yours. Okay, and sometimes you have partners, which means that they share in various degrees. I never had a partner as such, legally speaking. I had my daughter, who was very much my partner in many ways, but I never put her legally because I didn't want her to be liable for anything. Okay, so I took all the risk by being the 100% owner on everything that I've done, because there is risk. There's risk. I have to tell you that many times people try to also give me loans where I would have to put my house as collateral, and I never did that either. Okay, I had a lot of pressure on that, but I never did that. I handled it any which way I could, but not putting my house as collateral.
And those protections is what we are all about. We want our businesses to succeed, but we want to protect the individuals and the businesses, right?
Exactly.
We go back to that same idea that Danielle talked about earlier. Sebastian, you said earlier that the business structure that you guys have in the insurance, it's kind of different as well. Talk to us a little bit about that. How does your business operate? What is that business structure that you have, and why did you choose that?
Now, thank you so much, Chris. So Diversified Insurance operates under an incorporated. Now that within itself, that is more of an upper managerial decision as to why they decided to proceed with that business structure. But since we're talking about liability in terms of protecting said, one thing is the entity, the other thing is, the third parties, right? And whether they are operating or providing a service, right? In the construction field, specifically is talking about workers' compensation, the high risk that comes with it. And in that sense, a lot of people, as we were alluding before, where is that business structure? How are they hiring people? What is their retention? And if they are hiring 1099s, and in the sense of like, how are they paying them? It leaves a lot of misconception as to where the responsibility actually falls in terms of legal liability, whether it's an employee or a non-employee. In terms of financial sense, through the IRS, how you pay them, that is between yourself, said entity, and what or how it is filed under the Internal Revenue System. However, in terms of actual security and providing the protection to said employees, it comes down to what is that relationship between the employer and the employee. Sometimes it can be a W-2, sometimes it could be a 1099. And in terms of workers' compensation, unfortunately, the huge misconception there is that, well, I pay them cash or I pay them on a 1099 basis, and they're not my employees. But unfortunately, what it comes down to is the relationship, whether it's, from the employer to the employee. Is it a de facto relationship, or is it a de jure relationship? And at the end of the day, if there is a claim, unfortunately, things are going to get scrutinized, and the policies will be looked under a microscope. So it's very important to talk with your CPAs and your your financial advisors and your insurance agent to just make sure that you are currently and accurately protected in the way of making sure that your employees or those quote unquote employees are protected. That's one way. Also, the transfer liability, whenever they are hiring other subcontractors, is make sure you have a seal tight workers' compensation or subcontract agreement with them before you even hire them. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that that transfer liability is not there. The shoe is going to fall on you, and that's a misconception in terms of knowledge, right? And right now, what we're trying to do, especially with the Spanish-speaking industries, is make sure that they are educated and they know this, because at the end, we are all trying to operate in a safe manner and carry as less liability as we can.
Gracias. Thank you for bringing that up. Nuestra comunidad, muchas veces por falta de documentos, nos trabajamos como un subcontratista, trabajamos, ¿verdad? Porque no tenemos un Social Security, no podemos ser un W2, entonces trabajamos como subcontratistas. Cuando yo soy un empleador, y me gustaría que ahondemos un poco. Two things, actually. So you gave us a couple of words there. You said if you have a contract, de facto, and right? I would love to talk about those. If you can just define those real quick for us, to make sure that we're all on the same level, that we understand what we're talking about when we say that.
Of
but
course.
Also, when we're hiring people with that, the idea of hiring them on the 1099 or paying cash, ¿verdad? Si es que los vamos a subcontratar o les vamos a pagar en impuestos. Como dueño de negocio, ¿cómo me protejo? ¿Verdad? Porque quiero darle trabajo a mi comunidad. Sé que les puedo dar trabajo pagándoles en efectivo o como subcontratistas, pero ¿cómo me protejo? ¿Cómo protejo mi compañía? ¿Cómo me protejo yo? Y hasta cierto punto, ¿cómo protejo a mi comunidad también para que no nos metamos nadie en problemas?
Perfect. Great point, Chris. So going back to your first original question, what is a de facto and what is a de jure, right? The terms of de facto is whether you're controlling the time and resources and you're providing the tools in order for employees to do the work, right? And where does that relationship fall? The other one is a de jure. Well, it's if it was to go to court, right? And all of the ties and all of the lines lead to the other was a employer-employee relationship. Well, that overall determination will be that there is. And in terms of protecting the business, right, in terms of workers' compensation, it is highly beneficial for those 1099 employees. You're still going to have to file them under your payroll because you're paying them one way or another. A lot of contractors, unfortunately, don't like to do this because that also means that their workers' compensation and other lines of insurance are going to be affected, particularly the workers' compensation. In terms of workers' comp and code classification is highly important. And we can talk on and on about this, but just making sure that you are operating within good safety standards is highly critical. The other thing that I would say is talk with your agent or give me a call. I'd love to just sit down and look at the minutia of their operations and making sure that they're accurately classified. So whenever there is an audit, those surprises don't come up because unfortunately there are circumstances where whether it's the carrier just got smart and they just decided to do an audit, and at the end they find out that you're misclassifying or underreporting payroll, and here you go, here's a bill for $15,000-$20,000. Right? That's not a surprise that nobody wants to hear or have, right? So
I mean, I'd like to get the check, but I don't want to have to give it. Right?
Exactly. So it's very important. Education is key, and making sure that you're operating in a good standards is also very important. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. For example, my business is a lot of services, and I used to work with a company that helped me with people from Philippines, but now I'm hiring like directly from Peru because I have a lot of Spanish speaker clients. She's helping with my marketing, and I have another in Philippines, and I pay like $5 the hour. I don't know, maybe Daniel can help me. What is the best way to put them if there are people from another country, how I'm going to present my expenses? And then the other benefit to be an LLC is like I can put my daughter as an expenses, I think up to 16,000. Like she's helping me like delivering mails or she does my videos, incredible. She can edit my videos. It's amazing. And this is one of the expenses that I forget to mention.
That's awesome. So Carmen, going to what you mentioned first, so it sounds like you were allocating resources to another third country. Workers' compensation law will go ahead and be applied to the United States. So whenever you are paying somebody within the United States and they're operating within the US, that's whenever the workers' comp will be active.
Danielle, maybe from your perspective, we can hear about, some of these things that we're talking about, when we're hiring under W-2s, under 1099s, paying cash. Now we just threw another curveball at you, right? We are hiring, subcontracting overseas. When we are businesses, what are the considerations that we need to be making, right? In the structure of our business and in tax implications and all of that.
So Sebastian talked in depth about the workers' compensation employee classification. That's one of the tests. What he discussed was one of the tests that Maryland uses under workers' compensation to determine whether or not an individual is properly classified as an employee or improperly misclassified as an independent contractor. There are probably like 20 different tests under every single law. They're under Title VII, the law that bars discrimination in employment. There is one test. Under the FLSA, which is the law that governs whether or not you are properly paying individuals for overtime, minimum wage, there is an entirely different test there. There's an IRS wants to look at, whether or not you're properly classifying them under the IRS classification. That's a 20-factor test that you'd have to go through all 20 of the factors. Or more likely, the IRS is going to go through all 20 of the factors to determine whether or not you are properly classifying them. Ultimately, Maryland is going to have all of these different tests that you're going to want to look at, whether you want to determine whether or not an individual is an employee or an independent contractor. That is something you're just going to have to talk to a lawyer. You're going to have to speak with a lawyer because it's going to sway in one direction or another. All of these tests have, 8, 9, 20 different factors to determine whether or not someone is properly classified. And if you don't classify them, not only do you have the workers' compensation risk that Sebastian discussed, you're going to have the risk of you weren't paying somebody the minimum wage that they should have been paid. Or what is more likely to have happened is that you've been paying somebody as an independent contractor, you haven't been paying attention to their hours, they're working 60 hours a week, only working for you, you're calling them an independent contractor, and they come back with a demand letter from an attorney that says, well, you need to pay me for those 20 hours a week that I was working above, and I want you to triple that amount of money that you were supposed to owe me. Oh, by the way, please pay my attorney's fees. And 9 out of 10 times, that is what is we see all day. We see it particularly rampant in the construction industry, but there are tons of industries that misclassify their employees and end up having to pay far more. I've had at least a couple of multi-million-dollar deals that have fallen through because one employee raised an issue that they were actually an employee rather than an independent contractor. And then it turns out there's about 60 of them. And now this multi-million-dollar deal is going through because there was more than $60 million in claims that are out there. We see this every day with Uber drivers. And what is an Uber driver? Is it an independent contractor or is it an employee? I don't know. The court's ultimately going to decide, but you're going to need to speak with a lawyer to kind of gauge where they are on that spectrum to determine what your potential risk is when you just want to, say, hey, I'm just going to give you a 1099. And oftentimes employees like that. They want to get a 1099. They don't want you to take away the taxes, but you're going to be in a far worse off position with one claim that goes wrong. So it only takes one to blow up a business. You're also going to want to look at when you're hiring these employees, whether or not you're properly classifying them as exempt or non-exempt. And what does that mean? That means whether or not they are going to be paid for the hours that they work above 40. An exempt employee is someone that is being paid a salary and they're expected to work within the bounds of that salary, but they can work above 40 hours a week and they're not going to get paid anymore. And a lot of people just say, well, I'm a salaried employee. That's it. That's not it. That's not the end of the real questions that we want to ask. We want to ask, are you exempt or non-exempt? And then we can put you on salary. Is your position such that we've already decided legally that you should be determined to be an exempt employee and we don't have to pay you overtime? Grand majority of these cases end up being also a factor where if they are misclassified, they can also get 3 times the amount that they were owed and their attorney's fees. These are incredibly expensive claims, and it always result when somebody says, it's just easier to do it this way. I don't want to call a lawyer. I don't want to do that. Let me just put you on salary and, let's leave it at that. Or, oh, why don't I just put you at 1099? You don't have to deal with the taxes. Employee's happy, and everybody walks away until something goes wrong. Until the day that somebody says, I'm tired of working for you, or you say, I'm firing you, and then they find out, they're getting fired. They go to a lawyer, and the lawyer says, oh, you actually don't have a good claim for discrimination, but my God, you've been owed wages for the past 3 years.
Wow.
Could destroy a business one time, and that's all it takes.
I have a question. If you don't have Social Security, what happened? Because all the constructor, all my clients are
Well,
Social Security and they can claim those things or no? I don't know.
They should have a tax ID number if you are hiring an employee that is legally able to work in the United States.
They are not legally because they don't have Social Security.
And the law says we don't care. If
Right.
they are somebody that is working illegally and illegally in the United States, they can still bring a claim that will destroy a business.
Yes.
The law says that they have every right to go into court, and there's not going to be an immigration scare that's going to happen to avoid that. And those are the primary cases that we see.
Correct. I'll have to second that. A lot of the, like you mentioned, Carmen, unfortunately, there's, the majority of the workforce, right? They're undocumented. They don't have documents, and they operate within, under the table, under the radar. But at the same time, the responsibility is there from the employer side. And if there's a claim, right? Let's say somebody had a client, they hire somebody off of the, the Home Depot parking lot, their roofer, and they weren't properly tied, guy fell, documented. Well, you know what? He still has rights, right? He still has a right to be seen by the hospital and by a primary care physician. And that's where it goes, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the responsibility comes from the employer and knowing what's happening and how to protect yourself. It's very important.
I have a question also because I have seen a lot of cases of a lot of people because everybody comes to me to buy houses. And one of them was hidden by the employer. The other one, she was cleaning in a hotel. She fell down from the shower. And they say, no, we don't have it. How much is that time to do those claims? Because I know hundreds of people and they say, maybe I am out of, they don't know the law here.
Carmen, vamos a seguir con nuestra conversación. Es muy importante lo que estamos diciendo. Es importantísimo las personas que no tienen documentos que sepan que tienen derechos, que tienen derechos igual que cualquier persona y que si no le están pagando lo correcto, usted puede también ir y hacer un claim, puede hablar con un abogado, hablar con un experto y poder hacer eso. Entonces, esa pregunta, Carmen, que acabas de hacer es importante. Te voy a pedir que la hagas por privado, ya sea con Daniel o con Sebastián, para poder seguir aquí con nuestra conversación. Gigi, veo que tienes tu mano arriba, pero solamente quería decir eso, que tanto empleadores como empleados, documentados o indocumentados, todos tenemos derechos y lo que dijo Daniel es importantísimo. Tenga o no tenga usted documentos, usted está protegido por la ley. Es importante que sepa eso. Sebastián dijo, sí, totalmente de acuerdo, y es importante que nuestra comunidad lo escuche en inglés, en español y en cualquier otro idioma que hablemos para que lo entendamos, que no por estar aquí indocumentados no nos tenemos que quedar callados, al contrario, tenemos que hablar porque tenemos derecho y la ley nos protege. Gigi, adelante.
Lo que les iba a decir es que Daniel tuvo toda la razón y él presenta el escenario más riesgoso, ¿no? But there is a way to fix the whole thing. One is whoever you're going to hire that's going to be a 1099, meaning a non-employee, should have his own or her own LLC. Then you're off the hook. Okay, you're off the hook. They're
Not
supposed to have their
necessarily.
own unemployed. No, not really.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but he's right, not necessarily, but they have to breach that, what is it, pierce that veil, Daniel, is that correct?
Yeah, pierce the corporate veil.
Veil. So correct me if I'm wrong now, or maybe pick up the subject. So if I'm an employer and I know I don't want them as a W-2 because they're not going to be around forever, right? They are going to go for a specific task that I need them to do. Maybe it's like I had instructors. They were not the full-time employees. They just came in, did a class for 2 hours, couple times a week, and they went home. They had nothing else to do, and I did not control every class. I did tell them what they had to teach, obviously. But all the college teachers, the community colleges, they all operate like that, okay? Now, probably in construction, if I do something and put them at risk, make them work on a roof that's ready to collapse or something, that may be a situation. Would that be a situation, Daniel?
So I don't want to talk about, specific scenarios. I'm going to talk about more general scenarios.
Okay.
I'm going to start off with this concept of being an LLC, being a shield. So if the independent contractor or the purported independent contractor has an LLC, that could be a factor to determine whether or not there is an employment type relationship or a truly independent contractor relationship. But that's not in and of itself sufficient in order to determine whether or not that relationship exists. So, for example, if there is somebody that has an LLC, they've set up an LLC and you're paying them as an independent contractor, but they're only working for you. They're working when you want them to work. You are providing the equipment, the tools, the location for them to work. You're controlling when and where they're working. You know, taking all of those things together, well, what is the LLC? It's nothing but a, you know, it's not a real LLC. They are your employee in everything but name only. So having that is not enough. But what you're really looking at, and you really want to question, and it's the reason why you've got to talk to a lawyer to see where you are on the spectrum, because every factor is going to have different weight depending on the circumstances. You know, if I give you another scenario where somebody does have an LLC that's set up, but you know, you don't control when they work, they get to decide when they come and go. They're only on the project for a short duration. They're doing a very specific task that's something that you don't do, right? I'm a lawyer. If we hire, you know, tech people to come in, potentially that means that, you know, they can be independent contractors. It's not something I do. So in that, you know, different variables, different factors, the fact that they have their LLC, that's another point on they are an independent contractor side of things. So it's not in and of itself sufficient. You have to look at each one of the factors and see where they start swaying to determine where they lie on the spectrum.
Esa definición de empleado versus contratista, bien importante que la entendamos. Nosotros los latinos nos movemos mucho entre esos dos campos, y como dueños de negocios, me encanta, Daniel, gracias lo que acabas de decir, porque pensamos muchas veces, oh no, yo lo contraté como tal, pero ya viendo la definición, ¿verdad? Ya viendo quién provee el contrato, quién determina dónde y cuándo trabaja, puede ser toda la diferencia en caso de que hubiese, como nos decía Daniel, algún lawsuit, algún problema después a lo largo, y tenemos que cuidarnos y tenemos que entender como dueños de negocios. Voy a abrir ahora la oportunidad para todas las personas que nos están acompañando aquí en Zoom. If you are on Zoom with us and you have questions, please, this is the time. Just raise either your real hand or your virtual hand here on Zoom so you can ask a question. We can have about 5 minutes of that because it is almost 1 o'clock and we will be closing our BAM on Zoom soon here. It doesn't seem like there's any questions here, so I'll go ahead and ask the last question then for all of our panelists here. And that is, you know, what's that one thing, right? And if we could kind of like try to not give the same advice, right? So if Sebastian gives one advice and Daniel, you can't give that same advice. Si es que ya nos dio Sebastián un consejo, pues entonces Daniel tiene que darnos uno distinto y Carmen también, ¿verdad? Pero ese consejo que quieren que todos nuestros dueños de negocio o las personas que están pensando en convertirse en dueños de negocios aquí en el Estado de América, que les gustaría. Oh, y otra cosa que sí quisiera que preguntar es, antes de que abramos a eso, estas leyes y todas estas especificaciones de las que hemos estado hablando, ¿son solamente para Maryland o son en todo el país, en todos los Estados Unidos?
Va a ser diferente en cada estado, pero más o menos va a ser la misma cosas que están mirando.
Perfecto, gracias por esa aclaración. Entonces, ahora sí vamos con esa pregunta. Carmen, what's that one thing? ¿Qué es esa cosa que tú quieres que los dueños de negocio, las personas que están pensando en ser dueños de negocio, they should really have in mind, that one thing, ese consejo que quieres dejarles a todos?
Piensen en grande y van a tener grande. Siempre trabajar duro todos los días darle, y el karma regresa, o sea que pórtense bien porque el karma regresa 7 veces 7 y denle para adelante porque todas las puertas se nos abren y más para los latinos.
Gracias, Carmen. Sebastián es el siguiente en mi screen.
Yeah, what I would say, a good piece of advice is whenever you are building your company, that's your baby, right? That's you're building hard to make something grow and become somebody in this country. Make sure that you're doing it right. Get involved. Ask people for advice. If you don't know something, ask your peers, right? And definitely consult with professionals like we have here in this group who can point you in the right direction.
Daniel?
Yeah, don't try to be cheap up front. and so that you're going to pay more down the line. Don't not call me, don't not call Sebastian because you think it's going to be too expensive right now, so that you can find out that it's going to be a lot more expensive later.
Yeah. Es un investment, ¿verdad? Es una inversión en nuestros negocios. Llamar y tener ese equipo, lo que decía yo en un principio, tener un equipo de profesionales que nos puedan, lo que dijo María Pilar, tenemos a un abogado aquí dentro de nuestro board de directores aquí en el chamber. We have a lawyer. Why? An attorney, because we want to do things right. We don't want that call. We don't, like I said, we don't want to have to pay that check. We want to get those checks, right? We want to benefit. We want the benefit. So it might be more expensive to not have the experts on our team and then have to pay up later. Saving $500 at the beginning might actually cost you $50,000, $500,000 later, as we have heard. So I want to thank everybody. And before we leave, I do want to try to share my screen and take you guys back to our page because I want to elevate the upcoming events that we have. So if you go to the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce website, you will see our calendar of events and you will see May is almost done. We had BAM today right here. If we go into June, you'll see we have speed networking in Hagerstown on June 15. We have BAM, our next BAM is on June the 16th at 12. So mark your calendars. BAM Wellness is also on Zoom June 17 at 2 p.m. So you can get all of the details if you click on the links here. If we look into July, I'm taking you 2 months ahead so that you can start really marking your calendars. We have a job fair in Frederick on July 6th. We have BAM again. We can see each other again here on Zoom and on Facebook on July 21st. And our big day, our big event is coming up. We have our gala on July 29th at 7 p.m. It is going to be in Live Casino right here in Arundel Mills. It starts at 7 p.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's Carnaval in July. So, you know, Latinos know how to throw a party and we're going Brazilian this time. So come to our gala July 29, get your tickets on Eventbrite, go to our calendar of events on the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce website, and you can get all the information, all the insight. You can find out how to connect with us. Stay tuned with everything that's happening. And, you know, I'm just thankful for everybody who's here on Zoom. Thankful for your time. Thankful for your questions. Thank you for dropping your information on our chat as well. Daniel, Sebastián, Carmen, muchísimas gracias a ustedes por compartir su conocimiento, su información, por ayudarnos a crecer como dueños de negocios, a establecernos cada vez mejor. El Chamber of Commerce tiene ese propósito en su corazón de realmente hacer que nuestros negocios salgan adelante, que se establezcan bien con buenas bases, con esos equipos correctos, con los expertos. Y Gigi, adelante.
Una sola cosa más, antes de que se vayan, por favor, give us your complete contact information. Some of you I really don't know, I'd like to do so. Crystal Alexis, I don't think we know you very well. Carmen Oliva, I think you're new as well. Monique Richardson and Sandra Lopez, please make sure that you leave your contact information, meaning phone and email and anything else you want to put in there. And also please go and register with the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The most inexpensive membership that we have is $100 in this for the year. Okay, and you get discounts to attend places, you get BAM, you get a whole lot of things. And when people know you, people do business with you. And that is the truth. It's not an exaggeration. Okay, and it's very important to get people to know you.
Y
Okay.
aquí es donde nos conectamos entre latinos. El Maryland Chamber of Commerce is here to support all businesses, is here to help all businesses succeed. Thank you all.
There's only one catch. I always put you to work.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, yes,
We're all
he does.
volunteers, and that's how it
For
gets
sure.
started.
That is for
Right?
sure, Gigi. Always
That's right.
work.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I know, but it's a good thing, right?
It
Yeah,
is.
it is.
And we have fun when we do it. That's right.
Yes, yes, we do.
We need another lunch. We're not bad.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So
Yeah.
happy Friday, everyone. See
Happy
you
Friday,
next
everyone.
time.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for
Happy
this.
Friday.
Have a good weekend.
Happy Friday.
Enjoy the weekend.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.